In this video, we're exploring some of the techniques out of pattern EUI AM. That's our second to third degree pattern, the one right in the middle, 45 movements. One of the techniques, or a group of techniques I've been asked to explain, was the hook punch variation. So if you're not sure, we have crescent punches, turning punches and angle punches, just to give an element of clarification on where they are, what they do, and kind of how you can use them, really. All right, so the crescent punch, as you guys will know from this pattern, will come slightly wider, and it tends to hit the shoulder line. If I'm looking at vertical lines, the shoulder line on the same striking arm. My turning punch tends to meet the center line. You've actually got quite a good marker in the center of my dough box there, so when I'm looking at doing a turning punch, it hits my center. An angle punch, you've met this one before, a couple of different patterns, meets the shoulder line of the non-striking arm. So recap, we have crescent punch. I normally go high on that one. You tend to see a crescent high. We have turning, meets the center. We have an angle punch, tends to be across to the opposite non-striking arm. There are bits, angles, 90 degrees, there are things that we could specify, but for the purpose of this, simple clarification, and looking at how we can use them. So do you want to drop in an angle for me, mate? Perfect. So what I tend to do with these is I tend to consider the crescent punch to go in slightly wider. So if I'm coming around, it tends to be slightly wider as a position, whereas things like turning punches tend to be a little bit closer. Angle punches tend to be a little bit further behind or across, subject to kind of where we're trying to strike. So let me repeat that one again, slightly slower. Crescent punches go high and wide. A lot of strong leverage or distance power you can generate and create from that position. Tends to be walking stance. Of course, you can do other positions, front facing, half facing. The turning punch tends to be slightly closer. I'm thinking about very close in the way of a position. Possibly I can be hitting him from almost a 0.0 close range here. That hits my center. And the angle punch tends to be slightly further across. If I'm approaching him from a very slightly different angle, I'm trying to think of ways you can see the camera. I don't know, it's in here, you can see the movement, right side, left side. Sorry mate, you're in. That's the hook punch variations. Crescent, turning, and angle. Hopefully that makes sense. The other technique I wanted to explain was this one. This one I get asked like loads about. You have, they're referred to as downward palm blocks or alternate palm blocks. You have downward versions. You also have horizontal versions, a little bit kind of higher up in the way of syllabus. Generally speaking, what they're to do with is to do with engaging or checking grabs. So it could be a single grab or a double grab, and it just takes the sting off it, really. If Tom's to grab my lapel in here, so I'm thinking things like just go for it, that's the kind of movement that I make. If you think about how it plays out in our pattern as the sequence goes, the movement afterwards, well, it makes sense, doesn't it, really? If I'm going to be technically more correct, what you're going to do with this one, if you're going to grab me, hold it there for a second, my predominant leg, obviously weight bearing is my back one, 70-30 L's, but the hand that's closest to my opponent is going to engage it first, so that's the hand that's going to be in front. But either way, again, I've always said this, like draw bridges, the draw bridge comes down, it closes, that's the kind of movement you're making, so it can check and it can engage. Hopefully, you guys get that concept as it closes, as it drops downwards. That's pretty much it, really. You happy with that, mate? That makes sense, doesn't it? So if you think about that as a movement, try it with a partner, experiment with these movements, and do let me know how you guys get on.